Hey everybody, it's Shanda Sumpter and I'm here with Christy Westerfeld. Hello. How are you?
Hi. Good
Awesome.
morning. Good morning. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. You're drinking your coffee. I'm drinking my water today and my
I
HeartCore
love
endurance.
it.
I'm excited to have you here today because we're going to be talking about entrepreneurs that are marketing online. We've already been chatting offline a little bit about the different challenges that entrepreneurs face when they're marketing online. And so,
Mhm.
I think this is an important conversation because we're talking about everything you do as an entrepreneur, whether it's an event, a retreat, sign up a client, whatever you do, there is a legal document that goes with everything. And how you always say that things, or you say, I shouldn't say always say, but you say
I do.
things go, things go sideways in the areas that we might not think they're going to go sideways. Like if you're doing yoga at your retreat or you're, signing up a client for us, we realized, buyout clauses, like just little things. And
Mhm.
say that most entrepreneurs' websites or registration pages are set up to lose, meaning that we're putting ourselves legally in a tight situation that we could be getting in some trouble. So I'm excited to dive into some details here that we can
Yeah.
expose. So first of all, tell everybody a little bit more about you, and then I'm going to jump into asking you some questions.
Yeah. So like you said, I'm an attorney. I'm also a legal resource for online entrepreneurs and coaches. So what that means is basically I get to help people both as their attorney and then as just a legal resource, providing things like templates, trademarks, any and all things legal. And I came into this kind of, looking back, it seems like it was so clear and meant to be as things always do. But it was a little bit of a rough or confusing path. I started out in the typical route as most law students do. I was in law school and actually loved it. I know that's not really the norm. Most people just like get through law school, but I was just having a blast and loved being able to this concept of networking. That's where I really kind of learned about, making connection with people and learning about what other people do and getting advice from mentors and people who had been, are currently where I want to be. And when law school was over, graduated, got a job at a great law firm, and everything was great on paper, but I thought, God, I really miss that, being able to have authentic connections with people and
Yeah.
really learn about what they're doing, help them in any way I can, and really just that authentic connection with people, real people. It's not just about number of hours I'm billing or, all that. So I was kind of having that, conversation with myself. And around that time, I got pregnant with my son. And really, so that voice kind of got louder of, I really want to do something that's meaningful and that, allows me to have that connection. And also it would be nice to set my own hours. So it really just became this crazy idea of like, what if I could, provide legal work for online entrepreneurs and coaches. At the time, I knew a lot of other female entrepreneurs who were moms and trying to, start businesses online. And I was kind of helping them just on the side for fun. Nerd alert. But it was just something I like to do. And I realized, okay, I could, let me see if I could do this full time.
Okay, oh, I hope you guys, is that echoey? Okay, there, it's come back. Sorry, my mic seems to be doing some weird things today.
No worries.
Christy, we have a great question already.
Yeah.
Where are you based? Erica's asking, where are you based? And do you think California law is the best to have your contracts written for?
That's a great question, Erica. So I'm in California. I'm in Orange County. And California law tends to be the most strict, certainly when we're dealing with like online privacy laws. That's where the requirement to have a privacy law comes from the great state of California. So everyone who's not in California, sorry, we're strict. You have to follow the rules. But as for whether or not I think California law is the best to have your contracts written for, I think it's not a bad idea. I think it's certainly wherever you are located, it's good to kind of have a check with a local attorney to make sure there's not any local contract laws that are different. Because without getting too far into legal, contract law is state law. There's like state law and then federal law. Contract law is a state law. So there can be a little bit of, nuanced changes from state to state. Typically, I would say like 99%, it's going to be the same. So California law is not a bad place to start because it tends to be, we tend to be the most strict with our law. So that's a great question.
Okay, so I'm gonna there. Is that better? Hopefully.
Yeah, I can tell you great.
Great. I don't know why my mic is doing some weird things this morning.
We adapt.
So exactly. So let's jump a little bit into websites or registration pages. There's a lot of people that are posting right now. They're saying, "Thank you for this topic today. I am always confused with the legal requirements about online," and I think that's great because as business coaches, I'm a business coach. I have an attorney on staff that helps me, and there's always things that we keep finding because the entrepreneur will bring certain things to their attorney, and then there's attorneys like you, Christy, who actually are like really actually being proactive and looking at our stuff online, which I think is so needed in this environment. You're just going to explode because it's just so needed. I mean, it's just so needed. So let's talk about websites and registration pages. What is the number one thing you see on a website or registration page that is just putting people in a bad position?
Yes, privacy policy. Privacy policy, privacy policy, privacy policy.
So what is that?
So a privacy policy is actually the one document that is legally required to be on your site. So if you have what we call an interactive website, so anywhere where someone can enter their name and email, you've got an opt-in, you've got a contact me page, anything where people can enter their personal information, you as a business owner have a responsibility to protect that information, tell them how you're using that information, and how they can unsubscribe from your list. And that we see that on a bigger scale with companies like Facebook, Google. They've been hit recently with privacy policy issues, data breaches, And while, I'm certainly not Facebook level business yet, it's something that as soon as you're collecting that personal information, you have a similar responsibility. So the privacy policy requires us to say those things like what information we're collecting, why we're collecting it, how we're sharing it, how we're protecting it. And then a couple other things like we're not marketing to people under 18 and similar kind of requirements like that.
Interesting. I don't know. Can you hear it? It seems to be this awful background noise.
It's fine on my end.
It's usually when I'm coming in after you speak, so hopefully it's okay. But anyway, what type of troubles can people get into if they don't have a privacy policy and they're a small business online marketer?
Yeah, well, the number one thing that can happen is that they can be fined for not having it. There is a penalty of up to $2,500 per website view without a privacy policy on it. That's the maximum. Like that's the worst of the worst that can happen. But it's certainly a punishable offense to not have it on there. So whether or not the FTC decides to start coming after small businesses remains to be seen. But you in my opinion, you don't want to be the one that they make an example of. As online business becomes more and more popular, there's more and more of a spotlight on people who have, anything from blogs to online coaching to, anything we can do online. There's that responsibility to have things like a privacy policy in place. There's also, go ahead.
I have another question for you.
Yeah.
Maybe try and turn down your volume a little bit. Somebody was just saying that on the thread. Maybe that will. Maybe turn down your volume just a tad. So somebody else is asking, where did it just go? I should clarify. The person who asked about California law, she's from Germany and she does retreats in California. but her business is based in Germany. Do I have to contract for location where retreat is being held in the country?
It should be where your business is located.
Okay, I do have an interesting question. If I wanted to do right now, I'm going to Toronto to speak and work for another company, but that's all under them. But if I ever wanted to go to, let's say, Canada, I am actually from Canada, so it might be a bad example because I probably might be a little different because I am a Canadian birth certificate, so to speak. But if somebody wanted to go, well, here, I have a client in Canada who wants to come do retreats in Arizona. Is there any sort of legal documents for them to lead an actual retreat in another country? Do you know that they're not based in?
It all comes back to, you'd have to look at where their business is located. And then for something like a retreat, you want to think about all the issues that can happen while you're there. So it wouldn't necessarily matter where she's located as long as we're protecting her business, and then the people that are attending the retreat are agreeing to everything in her contract. So it doesn't necessarily matter where she's located. It's more, the agreement is concerning, issues that might happen with travel, with the, attendees, and other things like that.
It's interesting because Tony Robbins at one point did, I'm getting third party. This is not something that he said to me, but I heard that he did an event when he was getting started in Vancouver, Canada, and maybe laws have changed, but he actually had to have some sort of a license in Vancouver, Canada for him to actually lead that workshop. And they came in and they actually shut down his workshop if he didn't have a license, which he actually, very creative man, put everybody on buses and sourced a hotel on the other side of the border, and they made it part of the retreat to bus them across the border and part of the experience. But just I know that there's so many interesting things that can happen.
There's a lot of different, I'm glad you brought up the business licensing, because there are a lot of requirements that vary from state to state and country to country as far as whether or not you need a business license or a similar license to do what you're doing specifically. So for him, it could have absolutely been, he falls into this category of business coaching. And then in the specific, province that he was in Canada, you have to, there could be a requirement that I'm not specifically familiar with Canadian laws, but there could be that requirement where in order to run, some kind of a program in that physical location, you have to have that kind of, license or whatever to operate there. So yeah, it's definitely worth looking into, to a certain extent, the laws where you're going if you're hosting a retreat somewhere else.
Okay, so Holly's asking, I want to update my contract for coaching. My biz is in California. How do I find someone, and should I give them an example of other contracts I've signed myself that I want to model? So Holly, first of all, you could just contact Christy. But she's asking.
I know a great person.
Yeah, obviously it's obviously in California. I would just contact Christy. There you go, right there. You find somebody right there. That's the whole purpose of me bringing great people online. If you need them, I want to be able to bring them to you so that you can, not make a bad mistake with someone who maybe isn't so good or cares enough. HeartCore, it's about caring. But with that being said, she's bringing up a great point. We do give samples of our agreements to our clients, but we always say, go take them to a existing attorney in your area. It could save you some money because maybe they can use our document and it saves them some groundwork, or just go to an attorney in your area and have them rewrite it. But what most people do is they take your contracts and they just reuse them. And it's a dangerous game to play because at some point you will get sued. At some point. And depending on how nasty and angry and righteous the person is that's coming after you, it could turn into something that isn't fun. And then there's the flip side. The bigger you get, you become a sitting duck. And unfortunately, I hate to say it this way, but there's actually attorneys that will sue you because they know that you could be sued, and then they don't even charge the client. They just take the money, and it's so sad because the client gets no money. Like, the client gets no money; it all goes to the attorney. So it's like there's so many games out there. So there's all these different levels. There's what we're talking about here, and then as you grow, we have invested in asset protection to set ourselves up. So right now we're getting close to the point where even if somebody comes and sues us, there's nothing there. Do you know what I mean? And you got to do it. It's an expensive game because, after you've gotten sued by a few attorneys that have given nothing to the client, which at the end of the day, even when a client's mad and they come after us, there's still a part of me that's like, I know they're just going through their shit. And so I want them to win, but then I want them to win in their business, not win as far as sue me, but I want them to win in their business. And then when I see the money go to the attorney and not to the person, I'm like, oh my God, you actually just righteously took yourself out of actually getting good coaching to win. Like, if you put that much energy into your business, you would have won. But then you start playing the game of now there's no assets. And so now there's no money. And then what happens at that point is now you've got attorneys that say, okay, guys, you got to fess up the money to be able to sue this person because there's just nothing here. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, absolutely. I think contracts are such a hugely important piece of what we do. And there's a couple things that I want to say really quickly. I think using another contract as a starting point is okay. You want to be careful though, using someone else's agreement when you don't have permission from the person who drafted it.
That's right.
A lot of times people say, oh, I just use my coach's agreement, verbatim. And I just want to jump into the computer and go, no, because two issues with that. Number one, they didn't draft it, their attorney did, or whoever, they hired to draft it, hopefully an attorney, who they need that person's permission, to use the document if they're going to use it verbatim. The other issue is that it might not protect their business and what they want to do. So if there's, let's say, I'm a health coach and I hire a business coach, what's in her contract is not going to be what I need for mine, because health and wellness coaching brings up a whole other host of, needs for disclaimers and issues. But it's really important, like you were talking about, that when you have a contract, or really when you have an online business and you're taking money and you're having clients, you have to take that step to have a contract that is right for you and your business. That's not one of the corners you want to cut, to save a little bit of money. It's not worth it. I mean, these are businesses we're working tirelessly to build. A lot of people do it on the side of a 9-to-5, or while parenting. It's just, in my opinion, not worth it to cut that corner. If there's another corner to cut, don't cut any of them. But if there's got to be one, don't let it be legal.
I totally agree. We say it over and over and over again. We're telling you, we're not attorneys. We're not, you've got to find a local attorney. Mm-hmm. And you can say it until you're blue in the face, but at the end of the day, it's like some people will just keep cutting that corner. And I'm glad that you're on, because you can share with them. Well, first of all, it doesn't have to be the national debt to have an agreement drawn out. Do you want to talk about costs?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I offer templates. So one of the main things that I do is I have I call it a beginner's legal bundle that includes all 3 website documents that you need, your client agreement, and then a testimonial release, as well as kind of instructions for how to complete for your business. And that's really, that's really the basics of what you need to get started. Is something that is not copyrighted. It's not, plagiarized from someone else. It's something you purchased for your own business. And you can check with an attorney to make sure it's right for what you're doing. So I have different ones for business coaches, health coaches, and then people who are web designers and in the technology space. In my business, the template alone is $400. The whole bundle is $997. So for under $1,000, you can get everything you need and have the confidence that you're doing it correctly. Attorneys usually run, a couple $100 an hour. Sometimes they charge a flat fee. So it really varies, but it doesn't have to be a monumental expense to get these things in place and to feel like you have that protected.
Well, on top of that, you're going to use it for a long period of time. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you buy it and then use it for a long period of time. I will say, like, it does make a difference if people buy your templates and work with you, that they actually work with you. Because when I switch attorneys, they switch my agreements. You know what I mean? And
everyone has their own style.
Yeah, and they have to be able to defend you as well with what you're doing. So I think there's a power to that as well. So I think there's a power to to people actually working with you long term in some other areas if something happens. For instance, we were talking, and we'll close on this, but we were talking about say a client wants to get out of an agreement and they come forward. There's a certain level of stress that goes with that, especially when they start to threaten legal, right? And I feel it all the time with our clients, and they're like, oh my God, this person's like saying they're going to sue me and they're going to do this. And I'm like, I don't deal with any of that. And there's a huge, I always say, protect your mind, like protect your mind, protect your mind, protect your mind. You got to reduce pressure all the time to keep yourself moving forward. So your job as an entrepreneur is not to be legal. Your job is to keep breaking the system and growing the business and getting better at what you do, right? And then you've got a legal arm, like someone like Christy, that you can literally have my admin department. Like, I don't go into my inbox. It's very rare I go into my inboxes. So if people send me a message into my inbox, like I want to get an agreement, it's very rare I'll ever see that. And our admin department will pick it up, or just call it a virtual assistant for many people, have them actually monitor those things. And then they send them directly over to Christy. First, for us, it goes to our accounting department, to Sonia. Sonia tries to work with them and see if this person is just angry or they're just fearful, and we can actually give them some more love and get them to where they want to be, because that's our commitment, is to get somebody to where they want to be. The bad on the legal side, it just doesn't even, as an entrepreneur, just don't even let that stuff hit your plate, because if it does, first of all, you get into a messy situation. Second of all, your attorney's much more grounded and educated to handle that stuff. And there's also a different energy, because now every email they send back and forth, if someone's being aggressive, it's now with your attorney. And that is a way different game than if it's with you. Then you got a good attorney, and they'll take it, and then they're going to push back and start slapping, legal issues right back to that person. Like, people can't slander in our agreements. Like, there's all those. We just had a situation happen like that, and our attorney was on them right away. It's like, okay, you slandered. You know what I mean? Like, we could take you in a huge way to court, and you would be on the wrong side of the fence. You know what I mean? Like, you signed an agreement that said you will not slander. So these little things I think are really important. So, Christy, any final last words for us entrepreneurs to keep us safe online?
We kind of touched on a lot of it. I think number one, like we were just saying, with the contracts, it's so important to know what's in your agreements, to know kind of at least the basics of what's in it and what it means. I think it's really important to know the basics of what you need on your website, the basics of what you need to work with clients, and then the basics about what you need if you're doing other things like retreats or podcasts or other things like that. It's really important to just have a very, very basic, legal understanding of what you need in those scenarios. And then I think the final thing I would say is just kind of like what we were touching on before. It's not a corner you want to cut. A lot of people start online businesses, and because it's not a brick and mortar, people kind of say they're not a real business yet. I hate that phrase. Because, if you're open for business, even if you don't have a client yet, it's you are a real business, and there's so many confidence and mindset issues that come with that. But there's also an important legal concept, that you're working so hard to grow this business and work with clients and help people and build something. It's just not worth it to not have the proper foundation and the proper things in order, and risk losing it all or having some huge stressful legal issue that was totally preventable with something that, you know, wasn't even a huge expense. So I think that's kind of my main thing that I like to teach, is just that it's so important, and you owe it to yourself as a business owner to take those steps and really, really protect what you're working so hard to build, so that you can focus on what you love to do and you don't have to worry about the legal stuff.
That's awesome. So there's a bunch of people asking how to get a hold of you. I did just pop up the christywesterfeld.com/beginners bundle, but I just popped it down. So if people want to message you directly, can they go to your website and do the contact us button?
Yeah, you can do that. I'll give out my email. It's christy@christywesterfeld.com. So that's christy@christywesterfeld.com is my email, or my website is up there, christywesterfeld.com. Same on Facebook, Christy Westerfeld. There's many ways to reach me, whether through my website or email directly, or Facebook Messenger.
Awesome. So this was obviously very useful for our base of audience. And so thank you very much for coming online with us. Thank you for taking the time really early in the morning. Christy and I were laughing because my son is sleeping and I have the iPad, and hers is 8 months and sleeping.
8 months old. Yep, got the good old baby cam, so he's still asleep. So
watching. So I'm happy to say we made it through Coffee with Shanda with no babies running in.
Yay! My God, we made it.
Have an amazing rest of your day, and contact Christy if you need her. Contact Christy if you don't need her and you just have a question, but contact her.
I love to chat. Contact me anyway.
Exactly. Sending you guys so much love. Have an amazing week, and we'll see you soon.